No matter how you feel about Dragon Ball Super right now, I think we agreed that Dragon Ball is definitely not at its best. The arcs are up and down, the power creep is getting out of control, and just a bunch of other problems that I don't have to specify. You all know them, and that isn't the main point of this video. I really want to dive into how the series got to this point, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm singling out Dragon Ball for only having this issue, because I think that it is one that exists for every anime, manga, comic book, cartoon, movie series, and so on. It is rare for a story to be generally good from start to finish. It is even more rare for a story to be good and have very few dips in quality from start to finish. But it is impossible for a story not to have ups and downs at all. So I'm not bashing Dragon Ball for that. If anything, I'm bashing you, me, us, the Dragon Ball fandom. I think it's partially our fault why things have gotten this way. I don't think we demand the story to be good, and I know we don't necessarily have control over the story, but they can only feed us what we're willing to eat. This wasn't really an issue with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, because I truly think that the majority of that story was written and paced well. It did get much worse, but by that point it was kind of clear that Toriyama was either burnt out from writing a story for a decade plus non-stop, or he just didn't have a vision for the story after Boo. Regardless of the reason, the Dragon Ball story ended when it was at its worst. It's kind of sad that it was that way, but at least there weren't multiple arcs of Toriyama feeding his fans material much worse than his previous work. That was in 1996. So in the 17 years after, there was Dragon Ball GT, countless fan manga and animations, video games, and discussion boards all over the internet that stoked the fire that was the desire for new Dragon Ball content. So when we got Battle of Gods in 2013, that of course brought excitement and a lot of chatter around the franchise as a whole, and the fandom's dream came true when a little under 2 years later, we found out that there was a new Dragon Ball anime on the horizon. I'm 20 years old. My introduction to Dragon Ball was through Toonami and video games, a very different experience for many, if not more than half of the Dragon Ball fan base. Dragon Ball started in the mid-1980s and ran well into the 90s. A lot of those people are still alive and big fans of the story. My wait through the early parts of my childhood doesn't even compare to those who waited from when they were children or teenagers in 1996 to full-grown adults in 2013. So as much as I love the return of Dragon Ball, it meant something completely different to them. Dragon Ball is intertwined with memories from when life was very different. Life was probably more easygoing, less responsibility, so the return of that might bring some joy to those fans and also cause them to overlook some of the shortcomings Dragon Ball Super has. In the beginning, we were very vocal. I know some of you remember episode 5 and all the rah-rah that came with that. I remember being in school watching so many YouTubers make videos about how this isn't the Dragon Ball I grew up with, the animation is terrible and things of that nature. Maybe the new anime in the works is taking so long so they can give the team more time to animate. And that's why I have to give the animation team a break for Dragon Ball Super, because they had an absolutely terrible schedule to work with, so there could not be great animation every single week. But in looking back, that still isn't my main problem with the series. I feel like as a fandom, we let the first 2 arcs slide because we understood that they were just anime counterparts of the much superior movies. If you wanted to get that same story with much better quality, there was a much more aesthetically pleasing and time-efficient version to consume. But after that tournament arc, I don't remember seeing or hearing much criticism for how forgettable most of that arc is. Watamu and Megeta? Hey, seriously, if you like either one of these characters, let me know in the comments, I really want to know. They kind of trivialized Frieza's counterpart, which I didn't like. The whole Boo fiasco is stupid, and I was never a fan of Monaka. The arc was exciting towards the end, but I didn't hear much criticism for the first brand new arc of Dragon Ball in 20 years. Now maybe that's just because I was young and my knowledge was limited to YouTube videos and very few tweets, but I still didn't hear much. The Black arc and the Tournament of Power were better, but still leaving a lot to be desired. But the one arc I was expecting to get more criticism was the Moro arc. Everything up until the final conflict was great, but the ending was so horribly done that it really ruins any experience I have when I go back and read it, because I'm reminded of what a terrible ending it has. And by this time, I was older. I was aware of the conversations being had around Dragon Ball, and this ending wasn't talked about enough. And so I've come to my own conclusion about Dragon Ball Super. The power creep is going to continue to worsen, writing a good story will not be the #1 priority, and all of this is going to happen because of a combination of 2 things. The first is that some of those fans who grew up with Dragon Ball are just so excited that it's back that they knowingly or unknowingly overlook many of the series' current shortcomings. And the second, those who became fans of Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Super just don't know that the story was once much better than this. Either way, we as a fan base and our diminishing expectations are part of the reason people consistently say Dragon Ball Super just isn't as good as Dragon Ball Z. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and let me know why you think Dragon Ball Super is so up and down. If this is your first time on the channel, subscribe so you know when I upload more videos like this. But until then, this is BigTune and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.